Despite taking great care, he deposited several size 10 shoe impressions into the mud. Stench from the detective's cigarette blunted the scent of the ocean breeze pushing itself inland across the gully where the sun was baking away the morning mist. Moore gave the surroundings one final glance before fixing his attention back on the corpses. The young female officer, the first investigator to arrive on the scene, pressed her palms against her knees. Chunks of her vomit spotted her blue pants and black shoes. "Here," Moore said, his voice ragged and sympathetic. "Don't worry, I nearly lost it too, and I've been doing this shit for a long time." Plump but pretty, Moore thought as he handed the officer a tissue before turning his attention to the hiker. "You touch anything?" he asked the 14-year-old who made the grisly discovery. The boy hugged his arms around his chest and shivered, looking away from the human pile in the ditch and trying to focus on the questions. "Not really. I thought they were bums. Then, well, when I saw their faces, my gosh, an animal must have eaten them." Something troubled the detective about the bodies. The absence of bloat or decaying stench meant the three had died recently, probably within the last 12 hours. What was especially shocking was the state of the victim's skin, if that was the right word for the massive sores and lesions on every visible body part. Moore had worked homicide on and off for 15 years and knew how to read death. These three men suffered, then died. No animal chewed their flesh. These weren't bite wounds, more like giant cankers. "You sure you didn't move anything?" Moore asked again, searching the area with his eyes. The boy nervously fingered a pimple. "Only touched that top guy to see if he was alive. I tapped him with my foot. That's when I saw the face. I feel sick." At that moment, trailing dust and crunching gravel distracted Moore. A tan sedan was making its way down the narrow fire road. "You stay here," he said. "I'll be right back. And don't touch anything, not even with your shoes." Moore drew a last puff, then lifted his foot and pushed the butt onto the bottom of his heavy black shoe. Careful not to litter the crime scene, he placed the remnant in his breast pocket. Moore struggled up the slick hill, tripped, and used a massive hand and wrist as a column of support. Brushing the dirt off his light-colored suit, he glanced back and noticed that the female officer had recovered and was preparing to cordon off the crime scene. Once he reached the road, Moore hustled over to the car door and pulled it open. "Hi, Doc," he said, nodding to Dr. Tom Wheeler. "This one's weird." "Where are they?" "In that ditch," Moore pointed. The two men slid sideways along loose dirt and low brush. At the bottom, they paused to catch their breath. "I don't know exactly what happened," Moore said, "but these stiffs were fully clothed, and from what I could tell, there was no gunshot wound, no strangulation, no intrusive bodily trauma. My opinion's they bought it somewhere else and got dumped. Look at this area," the detective continued. "Wet from that little rain we got the other day. No footprints except ours. See over there?" Moore took a step to his left, nodding his head in the direction of a narrow trail of flattened weeds. "I think they got rolled, one after the other, hit the bottom and sort of piled onto each other." "Maybe," the coroner agreed. "Let's go take a look." As he bent over the bodies, the wind blew the doctor's gray hair across his brown-spotted scalp. He studied the largest of several wounds on the unshaven face of the man on top. "You're right," he said. "These are disease sores, and it looks to me like they died from whatever it is they caught." "By the way they're dressed," Moore said, "they're probably bums and winos. My guess, 3 John Does." Wheeler bent down and caught a glimpse of the man at the bottom. "This guy," he pointed, "has a surgical mask on. Why's that?" Moore bent down on one knee and peered under. "And there's another mask beside that second guy. Patients, maybe? If so, then somebody's sitting on one hell of a malpractice suit." Wheeler looked as if he had no interest in touching anything. "We need to get some body bags. If anybody touched anything with a glove or a stick or whatever, I suggest you burn it." "You think this is contagious?" The detective glanced over to the young man who discovered the bodies. He'd tell the boy to take maximum care in removing his shoes before leaving them behind. "All 3 of these men suffered from the same thing," the doctor said. "They were either exposed to something as a group or passed it from one to the other."
to keep listening to this audiobook. I've left you a link in the description so you can do it at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.